It's with my live stream, man. I'm just trying to record some Donald Trump, man. That's all I'm trying to do. We got 10 days left before the biggest moment in American history. I'm just trying to get the word out, man. I don't know why my live keep going in and out, man, but y'all need to tap in and let's Flatfoot get it, cause we gonna look at some Donald Trump tonight. That's just the bottom line.
Going, a very big hello to Pennsylvania. Thank you very much. This is some little gathering we have, and we really give a very special hello to Penn State. We love Penn State. We love Penn State. And I'm thrilled to be here, the home of the Nittany Lions, with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. You're very special. And I think I'd like to begin by asking a very simple question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? So I'm here today with a message of hope for all Americans. If you want to go out and win an election, you want to win an election because we're leading, but we got to close it out, right? We got to close it out. I will promise you we're going to end inflation very quickly. We're going to get those prices down too. And I'll stop the invasion of criminals pouring into our country. They're criminals and they're pouring in like we've never seen. We're going to stop it. We're going to get them the hell out of here. And I will bring back the American dream, because you want the American dream and we're going to bring it back. So this is all you really need to know. Kamala broke it, and I will fix it. We're going to fix it very fast. We're going to fix our country up very fast. With your support, on November 5th, America will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than ever before. We're going to do it fast. This election is a choice between whether we will have 4 more years of gross incompetence and failure. It's disgusting what they're doing. Or whether we'll begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. I'm asking you to be excited about the future. You want to be excited about the future. People aren't excited about this country very much anymore with the people we have in there. We have the worst president in the history of our country. We have the worst vice president, a grossly incompetent person in the history of our country. I'm asking you to dream big again. You're going to dream big, just like your wrestling team dreams big. You know, where the hell are they? Where are they? I hear that team is brutal out there. I can tell. That's easy to tell. I can pick every one of them. Jim Jordan told me about you guys. You know, Jim Jordan, he told me about, look at the muscles all over the place. You better get ready, because I'm going to bring you up here in a little while. So you guys better get ready. You guys better get ready. Maybe I'll wrestle one of them or two of them. Huh? That would be an upset. No. I'm not going to play that game. Anyway, you get ready. We're bringing you up here in a little while, okay? So, tone up those muscles a little bit. Congratulations, fellas. It's fantastic, man. That's a fantastic record you have. This will be America's new golden age, and every problem facing us can be solved. But now, it's in your hands, and it really is. It's a big thing. This is the biggest election in the history of our country, because our country really has gone bad. It's gone bad. It's so sad. When you look at the things we're doing, that we even have to say, like men playing in women's sports, I don't think so. I don't think so. No, but you think of it, so many things, all of the transgender operations, all the coming into our country, they're letting criminals into our country by the millions. Pennsylvania, you have to stand up and you have to tell Kamala Harris that, I can't even believe I'm saying the name Kamala, nobody ever heard of her. I'm running against somebody, and you can't use the name Harris. If I say Harris, they say, who the hell is Harris? Did you see when she got stuck 2 weeks ago in the teleprompter? She couldn't get. It was 32 days. Now there's 9 days left, but it was 32 days, and she's reading, and the teleprompter broke. And that happens a lot. If you're going to be a politician, you better be able to get through it without a teleprompter, but you can't. And the sucker snapped back, damn it. It snapped back. And she was reading, right? She goes, and 32 days, 32 days, 32 days, 30. I said, oh, this is bad. And then boom, it snapped back. Too bad. But Pennsylvania, you have to stand up and you have to tell Kamala that you've had enough. You're not going to take it anymore. You're the worst vice president. You destroyed San Francisco. You are horrible to the great state of California. You're just horrible. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here, Kamala. Get the hell out of here. We've had enough of this crap. Could you imagine going through, we just went through 4 years with a guy that had no clue. And now we're supposed to go through another one. And she's worse than him. She's worse. The polls are open for early voting here in Pennsylvania. I went to school in Pennsylvania. We didn't have quite as good a wrestling team, I will admit. They were okay. I would say they would have lost most of them would be, I think every one of them pinned in the first minute or less. The best one would have lasted about a minute with these characters out here. But we had some smart people, I will say. We had some smart people, but we're setting all-time records right now in the voting. I don't know if you heard that, you know, the fake news. Oh, look at all of the fake news. That's a lot of, whoa. That's a lot of fake news. That's a lot of fake news. But let's keep it going. You know, we have to close it out. We got to keep it going. We're doing incredibly. Nobody's done like we're doing right now. And I know you like me, but I know you're also comparing it to what we had for 4 years. So that's what's happening with the vote. And I think we're going to keep it going, and we're going to have a real landslide type election. And that's what we have to have. But everybody has to go out and vote. Just out of curiosity, who has already voted? Okay, that's good. Because with that number, and then we're about to go and do the real thing, right? Who is going to vote? That's good. That's great. Well, thanks for the early voters, but the Republicans tend to vote late. They like Tuesdays, and that's fine. Just get out and vote. Everybody promise you're going to vote, right? Promise? Okay. If you're a student here at Penn State, and it really is, it's a great place. I've known it for a long time. I know so many people that have graduated and done so well here. You can vote in person, you can vote by mail, then get your friends, call your parents, call your grandparents, your cousins, call anybody. A woman named Jane, I know her very well, she said to her husband, he's a big slob of a guy, big fat slob. And she said to him, Harold, get the hell out of that sofa. Get out right now, Harold. We're getting out. We're going to vote for the president, but I'm watching the game. Get your ass out of the sofa. And he got up and he voted. He feels good about himself now. Then he sat back down and he watched the game. But get everyone you know to swamp the vote. We want to swamp them. We want to make it too big to rig. Because, you know, bad things happen with these guys. We're going to make it too big. The one thing you do, you make it too big, they can't do a thing. So let's get out. Everybody has to get out. And we want to have a big margin. We want to have a big, fat, beautiful margin. With your help, 10 days from now, we're going to win Pennsylvania. We're going to defeat Kamala Harris. And we're going to make America great again. You know, I'm looking at this crowd. It's such a young crowd. It's a young crowd. And a lot of young people here. It's, that's what people haven't really gotten. We have a lot of, frankly, we have a lot of everything. And it's a great honor to be representing you. We've been on this journey for a long time together. We've all had a lot of victories. We've had the best rallies ever. There's never been, outside you have as many people as they're standing out there. If anybody would like to give up their seat or their location, I'm sure that you'd have it filled very quickly if you'd like to do that. I don't think too many people are going to do that. But we've had great success, and it's sort of, in one way, it's beautiful, and another way, it's a little sad because we've had these rallies, and we have 9 days to go to total victory, and then we're going to have a different kind of a victory. We're going to turn our nation around. We're going to have control of a situation that needs having control of, and we're going to turn it around. It's going to happen really fast, too. Two things. We're going to, first hour, we can do many things in the first, but first, we're going to drill, baby, drill. And we're going to close our borders to criminals and drug dealers and all of these people coming in from mental institutions and are saying this, we're going to have those borders closed. They asked me, what would you do? I listed about 6 things. They asked her, what would you do different? Did you see her answer? I don't know. Right side, wrong side, right path, right? Wrong path. They're like at 90% wrong path, and she doesn't know. I think I'd leave everything the same. That's the end of that election. When she said that, I said, that's got to be the greatest ad ever, right, Marjorie? Look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. Very shy person. She's a very shy, we have great congresspeople here. She's a very shy person, John, right? And John, you love these guys back here. Great John Joyce. For all the young people here at Penn State and across America who may be voting for the first time, I want you to know that I am in this fight for you. I didn't need this. I had a nice life. I'll tell you what, I've been investigated more than the great Alphonse Capone. Did you ever hear of Al Capone, the gangster? You think this has been fun, but we had 4 of the greatest years. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. Think of this, we had the strongest border. Oh, let's bring that, my favorite chart of all time. Can you do it? Do it. You gotta do this. Yes. Without that chart, I wouldn't be here. I turned around and said, bring down the chart. I turned it down, I wouldn't be here, I guess, probably. But see the arrow at the bottom? That's the lowest in history. This was done by the Border Patrol. And that was my last day in office. And then these incompetent people took over. What they've done to our country, it's unbelievable. Look at what happened. It's all illegal immigration, criminals pouring into our country at levels that we've never seen before. Drugs pouring into our country 10 times more than we had seen ever. The country is it's in free fall. We're a nation in decline, and we're going to turn it around. We're going to turn it around fast. But even beyond that, even if it didn't show those great numbers, I love that chart. I sleep with it every night. I hold it. I kiss it. Okay, we love you, darling. Thank you. Put it away. But it's true. You take a look at those numbers. It's just incredible. That was the single lowest time. And then they came in, and all they had to do was leave it. We had remain in Mexico. How about that? Do you think that was easy to get? And we paid nothing. All I did is say, if you don't let us have it, we're going to tariff every product you have at 25%. They said, we'd love for you to have very bad people remain in Mexico, gang members. This was in Tijuana. That was a dangerous place. Hundreds of thousands of people say, this little town, Tijuana, is probably the fastest growing town in the world because of me. Remain in Mexico. And we had a great system, and we were doing it, and everything was good. We had a terrible result. We did better in 2020 than we did in 2016. Millions of more votes. But it was COVID, and a lot of bad things happened, And so I said, do I go to the beach or stay at one of my I have the greatest resorts in the world. I could have been extremely happy. I could have had those beautiful waves smack me in the face. I could have had the beautiful suntan. This white skin could have been tan and beautiful. But if I had it to do again, I would have done the exact same thing because I want to be with you right here at Penn State, and we want to make our country great again. We're going to make America It's true. That's true. You know, we did so well the second time, but then I sat back and I watched and I thought, you know, we did a good job. We did a great job as president, rebuilt our military, got the biggest tax cuts ever. We had the biggest regulation cuts, which actually were probably even more meaningful than the tax cuts. We had the best job numbers. We had the best, it was great. We rebuilt our military. And I sat back and I assumed that these people would do okay or good. They were so bad. I watched, I couldn't believe it. And I said, I got to do it again. I got to do it again. Because we had the country at a point. In fact, I was going to have a theme, not Make America Great. It was Keep America Great. CAG, but MAG is much better than CAG. CAG. Keep America Great. The problem was America became not great. And so we couldn't do that. And then I said, we have to run because these people have no idea what the hell they're doing. And now we're running and we're leading and we have to finish it off and then we're going to turn it around even better than before. We're going to make it stronger and better. So many people come up to me at all these places. We just had a big one in Detroit, but they come up to me in all the different places. They said, I had the best 4 years I've ever had. You have the same thing. And now it's tough, sir. It's really tough. And we're going to get it back. You're going to have even better than before. We're going to bring businesses in, bring jobs in. It's all coming back. You watch. It's coming back fast. But the reason I've gone through all of these battles and endured all of the abuse, I have certainly have, you know, in history, Andrew Jackson was considered the president who was really probably hit the hardest. And then Abraham Lincoln, but in all fairness, he had a little civil war going, right? But now I think I hit the top of that list. But we're going to do something that's going to be amazing. We're going to turn this country around so fast. We have to do it, and we're going to do it. We want to make it so that when your children come into prominence, they're going to take over something that they can be so proud of. They're going to inherit the America that they deserve and that you deserve them to have. Kamala Harris is an incompetent person who, in all fairness, got no votes. Sleepy Joe Biden had 14 million votes. Then he went to sleep. We had a debate. He didn't do well in the debate. That's all right. And he went down, and they went to him and they said, you're out. They took over the presidency of the United States. It was, I don't even use the word coup. It was a coup, but basically they took over the presidency. They told him to get the hell out. Crazy Nancy Pelosi, the group, Schumer, the whole group. And then they talk about democracy. Oh, democracy. No, she got no votes. He got 14 million. All of a sudden I'm running against her. But this is sort of like I have a great friend, Dana White, UFC. Probably some of these guys will be there. But this is like they have a fight and the fighter's not doing well. And they say, get him out of there. Let's replace him with another fighter. I got to take two people. But the second one, I think it is, in her own way, might be easier than the first. I'll let you know on November 5th. But we have to get this thing and we have to get it big. Kamala will destroy your inheritance. But much more importantly, she's going to destroy your country. If you vote for me, I will ensure that you begin your careers, young people, in a roaring economy in a time of unprecedented peace and prosperity. You know, I had no wars. Crooked Hillary Clinton said, look at him. He's going to take us into wars. I said, no. She said, but look at that personality. He's going to take us into wars. I said, no, my personality is going to keep us out of wars. That's what we did. We had no wars. First president in 82 years. Other than ISIS, which we defeated in record time. We knocked the hell out of them. And we have a great military. Remember, there's not these stupid people that you watch on television like Milley and Mattis. The real people, the real generals. We knocked out ISIS, and they said it would take 5 years. We did it in about 5 weeks. And we have a great military. I flew to Iraq and I met with the generals. They were like central casting. They looked like Tom Cruise, but better looking. Much better looking, actually, because they know how to fight. These guys were great. They did a great job for me. But we had no wars. We had peace through strength. It was a great thing, peace through strength, and that's it. You don't have to send your kids out to war, have your kid blown up for a country that you've never heard of and that doesn't want anything to do with you anyway. But I will not send you to fight and die in a foolish, never-ending foreign war. I'll get you out of the wokeness, and your schools will be great again. Your schools are going to be great. We'll end left-wing censorship, and I'll defend your God-given rights, and I will ensure that you inherit the freest, strongest, and most powerful nation on the face of the earth. That's what we're going to do. We rebuilt the entire military, and then these stupid people gave a big chunk of it to Afghanistan. For what? There was no reason. Now, here's the good news. There was a lot, but it was very little by comparison. But to see them have that it's just not even believable. And we have it. I didn't lose one soldier in 18 months. I spoke to the head of the Taliban, Abdul. I said, Abdul, don't do it. Anyway, I can't go exactly because it's not nice. He's still there. Do you know Abdul's still there? But I said, don't do it, Abdul. Don't do it. He said, but why do you send me a picture of my home? I said, Abdul. Anyway, what happened with Abdul, and we were fine. 18 months we went without a soldier being killed or even shot at. Think of it, 18 months. And then when these guys, we had a great election, but it was, by the way, I got the most votes in the history of our country for a sitting president. Can you imagine? But they say they beat us. He got a few more votes, sitting in his basement, not talking, and it's a disgrace. But you know what? We're going to pull this off. It'll be the greatest victory in the history of our country for all of us, not for me, for all of us. For all of us. And starting on day one of my new administration, I will end Kamala Harris's war on Pennsylvania energy, and we will frack, okay? She's not going to frack. You know, that's a big part of Pennsylvania. The fracking is a big part. She's been against it for her whole life. She's been against anything having to do with anything underground. She'll build a windmill and kills all your birds. Isn't that wonderful? But no, she's against anything having to do with fracking, except about a year ago, she learned that she's going to need Pennsylvania. So she turned her thing and she said, oh, I'd love to see people frack. She had no idea what it was, but she said, frack. And she changed. But you know, with a politician, they always go with what's number one. She'll switch in 2 minutes. All of the different things. She wants transgender operations for people that are in penitentiaries if they demand it. All of a sudden she says, no. You know, we had a very short time with her. She had a little honeymoon period because nobody knew anything about her. When they found out about her, she went down the tubes. Yesterday she had Beyonce because she can't draw a crowd. See this crowd? This crowd is packed. I could sell it out 3 times. You got to see outside. And we don't have Beyonce, who couldn't fill the arena last night. But the people went there because they thought they were going to hear Beyonce sing, right? Beyonce got out and said, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to endorse her. What's her name? What's her name? What is her name again? Oh, I'm going to endorse her. They just don't get it. So what happened is the crowd came because they thought she was going to sing. Then she turned around, she left, and Kamala started speaking, and it was a disaster. They all left, everybody left. We don't need anybody because we are here. Let me be nice. We're here for policy reasons. Oh, policy. We're here for common sense. So the truth is, we're really the party of common sense when you get right down to it, right? And they send buses out. You know, they have plenty of money. They get it from the unions and a couple of others. They got a lot of money. They always had more money than the Republicans. But we have much better policy. We have much better ideas. They cheat much better. That's one thing I'll say. They cheat. Nobody cheats like that. Nobody cheats like that. But I'll tell you what, This is going to be the greatest victory in the history of our country. It's going to be an exciting night on November 5th. Kamala has said repeatedly that she wants to ban fracking. She was going to do it. You know, that's 500,000 Commonwealth of Pennsylvania jobs. By the way, never ever call it a state. I had a friend, a poor guy. He was a friend of one of the congressmen right there, GG. He was a friend of our congressman. He got up and he started talking about the state of Pennsylvania. He was dead. That was the end, right? He was dead. He died. He was dying up here. He didn't know what he was doing wrong. We were trying to send him a message. It's got to be called the Commonwealth, right? It's, Biden called it the state, right? But, you know, how about Biden when he go to Florida? It's great to be in New Hampshire. It's great. That's when we knew that wasn't going to work out too well. Kamala's crushing your energy industry with her vicious natural gas export ban currently going on. You don't know about that. And with her Green New scam, Kamala Harris is closing down your power plants. Just take a look. And this is on fracking. 500,000 Pennsylvania jobs. Take a look.
Kamala Harris pushed the far-left Green New Deal. That means huge new taxes, increased utility bills, and banning gas cars. Kamala's frack.
I started looking at my hair. I said, am I allowed to go back and recomb it? No. Now, she was against fracking from the beginning. I've been against nothing. I was the exact opposite. I was in favor of because it's tremendous wealth. We have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country in the world, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than anybody. And we're going to start using it. We're going to make a lot of money. We're going to pay down debt. We're going to do a lot of things. But she was against it from the day she was born. You know, her father was a Marxist, and I guess is a Marxist professor of economics, which is an interesting play on words, Marxist and economics, and I don't know. And I think your father wants to come out now, which is good, because we're trying to see. I'll bet he's a nice man, but we would like to have him say, but we just want to win this thing fair and square. It doesn't matter how we win. We have to win this battle to save our country. Our country is going so bad under Kamala's high-cost energy policies. Pennsylvania electricity prices are already up 50% and are projected to more than double in the years ahead. Year and a half, they expect to be double. Not only are they not going to be double, your energy prices, that's car, gasoline, because we're going to end the electric mandate immediately, okay? Your energy prices will be cut in half within 12 months from January 20th, which is when we would take over. So your energy prices, and that's going to bring down the price of everything. That's how they screwed up our country. That's one of the ways, one of the many ways. They spent too much, they borrowed too much, they did everything too much. But we're going to cut your energy prices by 50%. And we can do it. Most countries can't even think about that. We can do it because we have it right under our feet. We have more than anybody. We have ANWR in Alaska, the biggest find anywhere in the world, as big as Saudi Arabia, they think. Whether it is or not, it's close. And I got it done. Ronald Reagan couldn't get it done. Nobody could get it done. I got it done. We're all set to go. This guy gets in. First thing they did is cancel ANWR. We'll get that started immediately. We'll supply all of Asia with oil and gas, which they need. But Kamala's energy disaster stops the day I take office. We will terminate the Green New scam immediately. I will stop energy price hikes. I will rescind the natural gas export ban. They ban it. They ban it. It's big. They don't know why. If you ask them, why did you ban it? We don't really know. We'll have energy independence again. Think of it. Energy independent just 4 years ago. For most of American history, Pennsylvania was the commercial and industrial powerhouse of the United States of America. But after years of globalist, radical left politicians making bad decisions like Kamala, They waged a war on your Commonwealth like never before. They annihilated your steel mills, decimated your coal jobs, assaulted your oil and gas jobs, and sold off your manufacturing jobs to China and other foreign nations all over the world. They destroyed so many states. They're going to come back. Under the Trump administration, we're going to take back what is rightfully ours. We're going to bring it back with smart tariffs. Taxes, not on you, by the way. The taxes are on you. Taxes are on other countries that have been ripping us off for years. And we did it with the USMCA, but we're going to do things that you won't even believe. These companies are going to be begging to come back, because if they don't come back and open up plants here, they're not going to be selling their product in the United States, okay? They're not going to be selling their product. We're going to end the looting and the pillaging of Pennsylvania. We will bring back our manufacturing jobs, our energy jobs, our coal jobs, our steel jobs, and we're going to bring back our dreams. Starting in January, we will give our companies the lowest taxes, the lowest energy costs, the lowest regulatory burdens, and free access to the best and biggest market on the planet. And it is, but it won't be that for long. If you have a couple of more years, you're not going to have the best and biggest, and we're going to lose the dollar, the sanctity of the dollar. And once that happens, that's like losing a war. The centerpiece of this plan will be a 15% made in America corporate tax rate, cutting the tax from 21 to 15. Now, just so you know, it was almost at 40, and everyone said you won't be able to get it down. I got it down to almost 21 to 21%, got it passed by Congress, and we took in more money at 21 than we did at almost 40. Think of that. The money was flowing. We did a tax cut that created jobs, businesses were coming in, and now we're going to take the 21% down to 15, which makes us the most competitive nation in the world. So the biggest and most competitive. But here's the hitch. But only, and this is pretty cool, this is my idea. I'm very proud. I had calls from the biggest, most intelligent, supposedly intelligent. What's intelligence? I don't know. But the most intelligent people on Wall Street, where did you come up with the idea? Because I'm saying you're only getting the low tax rate, and it's only going to be for those who make their product here in the USA and hire American workers for the job. So they go down from 21 to 15, but they have to make their product here, right here, like in Pennsylvania. And if these companies don't make their products here, then they will pay a stiff tariff when they sell their products and send their products into the United States for the privilege of competing with our workers. We don't want that, and our cherished and now protected companies. We're going to protect those companies that have made the investment, and companies that are here that will leave. And I did you a big favor, because you do a lot of auto parts especially. So you probably heard that in Mexico that China was going to build among the largest auto plants in the world. They were going to knock out cars left and right, destroy Michigan, destroy Detroit. I just left Detroit. They were very happy. So about a year ago I found out, but I have a friend, he builds the plants. He's the biggest in the world at building the plants. I said, I want to see an auto plant. You got to show me one. I said, where would we go? He said, Mexico. I said, I don't want to go to Mexico. I want to see one here. He said, we don't make them here. We make them in Mexico. We make them in China. He said, what's that all about? He said, that's the way it is. We don't make them. I said, so I can't see one here. I don't want to go to Mexico.
Tonight, the high-stakes showdown here in Philadelphia.
All right, guys. Now it's finna get interesting. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. It's finna get interesting now. It's finna get interesting now. If you're a Republican, man, get them like buttons up, because here go the video right here. That link that I got pinned, Asian Water Produce. Go check that video out.
Historic race for president upended just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after his last debate.
thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on stage
Republicans,
here
get
tonight
them lights up,
often
man. We
asks
got
his
10 days
supporters,
left. We got to
"Are you better
work.
off than you were 4 years ago?" When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because it was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places they've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So, Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I've described as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse, mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued that it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. the people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Let's see.
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, and you know the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said, the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, We were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban, because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states. And the states are voting, and it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter, because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it
Well, I won't have to, because again, and 2 things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if you did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me. But I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working one or two jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris.
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question, would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
But the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying the
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if you didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump will give you a quick minute to respond.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people, not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you have no problem using the U.S. military. You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah. It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
to stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation
We do have a lot to
that
get-
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of it, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down. And name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response.
all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies, like She was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute, I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead, we'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that
for
we
the
have to get
environment
to.
that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I asked, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me
when
just
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes,
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia.
YouTube, what it do, and what it don't do. It's your boy Self-Conscious, man. And I'm getting ready to end this live video, but I want to come on here and be a perfect reminder to all y'all out there in the YouTube world, man. First and foremost, if you're a true Donald Trump supporter, I need you to be clicking that link down there and watch that video. That's a special video. I need y'all to tap in. Number two, we down to 10 days before the greatest moment in America history, man. I need to know if y'all gonna get out and vote for Donald Trump. Who all rocking with Donald Trump in the chat? Can I see some Donald Trump supporters in the chat right now? Double tap the stream for the win, guys. Let's get up to 150 likes before I end this live video. Okay, I see a lot of Trump supporters. Does she have a nut sack underneath her chin? That's a good question, my man. So, guys, like I said, man, you know, a lot of people don't realize what's going on with this election, man. It's just crazy right now. Donald Trump is winning by far. Definitely too big to rig. And I see y'all guys dropping down in the chat right now. So that's a good thing. That means I can go ahead and end my live and go to bed. You voted yesterday for Trump? Yeah, I'm going live. I'm going live at the Vote House now my way. So y'all stay tuned for that video coming up Monday, no later than Tuesday, man. I'm going to do a live televised and show y'all what this Donald Trump line look like down my way. It's crazy, bro. But 10 more likes for the win. The link down there in the chat, man, if I can get my Republican brothers and sisters right now to go ahead and click that link, go ahead and click on that link and watch it and come back and let me know what you think about it before I end the live video. I need y'all to go do that now. That's a special video, man. I'm trying to get a message out. What's going on, Outlaw? I appreciate you riding in that chat with me tonight, man. I appreciate all my Republican brothers and sisters. Yeah, man, it's been a crazy long journey, 4 years with the Democrats in office, man. And we got to make sure we do our part, man. We got to fight. We got to fight with President Trump, man. The man took a bullet for us. How you click it? Just click on the link, man. Just click on the link and it'll take you straight to it. If not, guys, y'all can go over there in my YouTube community. It's a MAGA cake. It's a MAGA cake that I had done. From second, fucked around and got, look, 2024, Trump 2024. I know that's right, man. They won't let y'all click it. I don't know why. Oh, yeah, I'm definitely finna do that, Outlaw. I'm trying to hit a not clickable. Oh, shit. Well, listen, go over there to my YouTube channel. It's 100. It's just a minute and 20 seconds. It's a Donald Trump cake that I had MAGA put on for, you know, for my birthday, man. And the Democrats, man, put it in the chat. All right, let me put it in the chat. Let me see if I can put it in the chat. Let me see if I can get that thing in the chat for you real fast. I already tried it. I already tried to put it in the chat. I'm going to try to do it again. See if I can do it from my laptop computer. Yeah, Lil Durk got arrested. Yeah, I heard about that, man. I don't want to talk about that, though. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Not to sound funny, but, you know, I try to keep my platform. I try to keep my platform on what it's on now, Donald Trump. I try not to get in nobody's business or worry about what nobody else got going on, and I ain't trying to sound funny, but I just don't do what those other YouTubers do. Come on here and talk about what people got going on and stuff like that. It's none of my business. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so. Oh, I don't know if I can put it in the chat, bro. It won't allow me to. Oh, yeah, Leanne, I'm about to get off. Yeah, I'm about to get off, man. I got things I got to take care of. Yeah, guys, it won't allow me to put it in there. Let's hit the 150 like mark or whatever so I can go ahead and, okay, there we go. All right, guys. Appreciate that. Hey, if y'all can go on my live, when I get off live, go over there. And I would appreciate if all my Republican people will start watching my videos. So with that being said, y'all have a beautiful night. I'm out. Trump 2024. Let's go.